When we're planning and preparing for mission travel, the dynamics change dramatically because in many times our destinations are not the resort or a hotel or some luxury destination, but we're in the jungles of Brazil. We're in the outskirts of another foreign country, and we're engaging people, whether it's a small village or a mid-sized town, that is not necessarily equipped to handle those things that can happen and upset a trip or a travel.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Lightwell Podcast. In the early parts of the book of Acts, there is an image given of the movement of the good news around the world where they talk about Jerusalem, Judea, and the ends of the earth, and just seeing it go far and wide. Today, we're going to be talking about the ends of the earth. We're going to be talking about mission trips, mission travel that takes a church far outside of the four walls of the church building and even outside of their community. And how do you, as a ministry leader, be a good steward of that mission travel team? Their insurance needs in particular. And to talk about that, we've got Kurt Hetherington. He is the agency director for Lightwell in the states of Texas and Iowa, and he's also the president of another insurance agency called James Green and Associates. He has a wealth of knowledge and expertise in this area, and it's a great conversation. Grab a pen and a pad, and let's get right into our conversation with Kurt. All right, well, it is my pleasure to be joined by Kurt Hetherington. He is the agency director for Lightwell in the states of Texas and Iowa, and he's also the president of James Green and Associates, another insurance agency. Between those two agencies, they serve more than 9,000 ministries across all their states. Kurt, it is really great to have you on the podcast.
Adam, thank you so much for the invitation, and I really look forward to digging into this topic. It's exciting. We're coming upon mission travel season.
That's right. I don't know when you're listening to this, if you're out there listening to this, but we are recording this in the spring. And so a lot of ministries are turning their eyes toward their summer mission trip plans and getting those groups together, getting fundraising going. So this is a timely topic, at least where we sit today. So let's talk about it. What are missions trips looking like right now? And maybe how has that evolved, Kurt, as you've seen it over the years?
Yeah, great question. I can think of early on in my Christian walk, a mission trip could be as bold as going to the next county. You know, that was a big trip for us, taking the youth group across county lines. But what is exciting today, Adam, is I have the opportunity, our team has the opportunity to walk a lot of ministries through traveling the world. That concept for me as a young teenager and believer would just be the furthest thing from my mind, to go around the world to be involved in mission travel. So I would say it in this way, it is becoming more dynamic. It's exciting to see more churches being involved in ministries that are reaching the lost around the world, and younger ages. I think the age ranges now just are broader and broader. So it's almost like walking into a paint store and choosing a color. The varieties are endless, which is really, really neat because it fits many times the DNA of that church and how they're trying to reach others with the gospel of Christ.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, and some of this may apply to what you just said, but there are big differences in traveling for, say, a vacation and a mission trip. They may seem obvious, that one is driven by a calling towards serving in a different area, but what are those differences between preparing for and executing, say, a vacation versus what people might not be thinking about doing the same for a mission trip?
Well, when you think about whether business travel or a vacation, in many instances, we're going to a destination that's all they do is cater to the vacationer, or a business trip where it's at a convention hotel or a convention destination. So the A to Z, the bricks and blocks of that are really, in many cases, already put together. When we're planning and preparing for mission travel, the dynamics change dramatically because in many times our destinations are not the resort or a hotel or some luxury destination, but we're in the jungles of Brazil. We're in the outskirts of another foreign country, and we're engaging people, whether it's a small village or a mid-sized town, that is not necessarily equipped to handle those things that can happen and upset a trip or a travel. And especially when I'm just planning for my family, the pressure level it diminishes significantly. Or if I'm on a business trip and I'm just the one I've got to plan and prepare for, total different level of pressure. But I have done those youth planning trips, whether it's a canoe trip that I did probably 10 years ago. I could not believe the pressure and the anxiety they had planning for others. And when we go on mission trips, especially abroad, that level raises up. So having a true partner alongside is key in that planning and preparing for those mission trips.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah, and you hit it right on the head that you have in tow someone else's precious cargo. Where you're taking a family vacation, it's like, this is my family in the back. I'm going to take great care of them, of course, but we're together all the time. If you're taking my child on a mission trip, your responsibility level just went through the roof. That kind of thing. Those are unique considerations. So that really actually begs another question. We say this on this podcast all the time, that unfortunately, every single passion area for a church comes along with an insurance risk. Like, that is just how it goes. You can't do anything as a ministry without also considering there might be something here that is a risk to our property, our liability, our reputation, all of those things. What are some of those risks that are waiting outside the wings in the wings of the passion area of leaving for a mission trip?
Yeah, great question. And think about that overall. February the 1st, I celebrated 32 years of being in the insurance industry, which I love and I'm passionate about. And then specifically with that, Adam, I have the privilege of working with churches and ministries and mission sending organizations, which is the passion of my heart. So in handling that, all of it is risk management. And I like the RISK acronym to be able to manage that. And the R is simply reduce. And we'll talk about that today. How can we reduce risk in the area of mission travel? The second piece to that, which is a foundational piece, is insurance. How can I insure the risk? And we'll talk about different types, because as we know, it's very different insuring my building or as slips, trips, and falls at my church here locally. But what if I'm overseas? What insurance policies respond and help protect and manage the risk for my travelers? So reduce, insure, stop. I hope that churches understand we don't want to stop doing mission travel. And there's exciting news. Mission travel is expected in 2026 to rise exponentially. And that's amazing. So we want to be involved in the mission. So it's something that I think we don't want to eliminate the risk or be away from, want to be engaged in it. And that K in the RISK is keep. And this is the unknown. We don't want to guess as a church that's going on mission trip and guess or assume something is covered. That's why really getting into the specifics are key. So we want to focus on that, reducing the risk and ensuring the risk, because they are unique in the challenges that we face. We talk about, does my health insurance with my local health insurance provider, if I get injured in Brazil, will my health insurance respond in a foreign country? I know my own personal policy says no, they do not. How do we address that? Or if we're doing construction or medical missions, construction abroad or medical missions that we get involved in, what is the exposure and how do we take care of the travelers? Or unrest that may happen, political unrest. We find that it can be unstable in some of these areas that we send mission trips to. How do we address that? That can be an insured or an I component to planning for your mission travel. And those are just a few.
Right. Well, and it's honestly, my next question was to deal with some of those, not just hypothetical, but real world examples. You mentioned a couple. Have you seen situations where a mission team has faced an unexpected thing, could be medical or logistical or even political, that illuminated their need for the proper insurance coverage to follow them on that trip?
Absolutely. As in my position with the agency, over the years, I've experienced each one of the unique perils that can take place in foreign mission travel. Adam, I've seen situations of heart attacks or broken arms or legs where somebody had to be stabilized and evacuated. I've seen the unfortunate thing of we had one where a young participant, they had one day where they were allowed to go swimming, and they were swimming. Unfortunately, this individual drowned. Well, bringing that person back home to their loved ones is a critical part of that insurance program that fits mission travel. I've known a pastor, and this was a couple decades ago, that was actually kidnapped. Now, when they kidnapped him and got a hold of him and finally found out that he was a pastor traveling by himself, there wasn't a whole lot of money attached to it. He was able to negotiate his way out of that with some resources and help, as well as we've seen mission travel teams that have gotten caught in political unrest that they weren't planned. They didn't see that coming, but when it happened, they were able to get that team together and get them home safely. So all of these interruptions, all of these perils, as we've talked about, are unique to mission travel. So you really want to make sure you have that grab bag or that pack filled with specific coverages for mission travel that you may experience.
There is so much to think about when it comes to mission travel and doing it the safest possible way. One place that we never want to see people not go is into high-risk areas for the sake of the gospel. But doing that in the safest possible way is a very tender art. Like, it is a very important consideration. So either in the preparation or in the insurance coverage portion of that, how can a ministry wisely go to a higher risk area, if it's political or for any other reason it's high risk?
Yeah, that to me, that's that reduced part. And what I love, if you go to Faith Ventures, the website at Faith Ventures, all of those resources are there. So the U.S. State Department, the link is available in that website, and that will give you up to the minute detailed information of what's going on in that country that you may be planning on going to do mission work. And it will give you each one of those hazards. Is it a political hazard? Is it a high crime area? Is there a risk of being kidnapped? It will give you each one of those definitions in one resource. And if you're like me, Adam, which I believe you are, you like to have things in one spot. I don't want to have to go to multiple areas to get that information. And that's the beautiful thing with Faith Ventures is it provides all of those resources that you need to know before you go, as well as air travel. Think about that. Just planning and preparing those individuals, plane tickets, and as their trip cancellation. Do we run into a problem at an airport? Connecting all of my travelers together. I want a resource. I want a team together that understands mission travel, that understands air travel, and you can find all of that in one package. And I really do like that with regard to the Faith Ventures product and their passion for the kingdom work.
That's great. Yeah, that's an important resource, and we'll make sure and link that in the podcast description. When thinking about mission travel, there is, and this is true both stateside when people think about their church operations and also when they take those on the road, nothing bad's going to happen because we're doing something good. Like, we are taking the gospel to the nations, nothing bad's going to happen. But that's not necessarily the case. And so how do you, without being a fear monger or trying to make people feel worried about their trip, how do you get people to understand the risks that go along with mission travel?
Well, several aspects of that. Number one, real live examples that things can happen. And we do have those. Handling thousands of ministries in all the states that we work in, we see these issues happen. So we're able to then share that with our churches that are planning or preparing to go. That's one aspect of it. I think as believers as well, Adam, I love this verse, Proverbs 21:31 says, the horse is prepared for the day of battle, but the victory belongs to the Lord. That gives me comfort, but it also gives me pause to realize that, you know what? The Lord's expecting me to use that gray matter, to use my resources to prepare for the day of battle. I certainly wouldn't go into battle without armor or without a sword By faith, I believe is strong, but the Lord also asks us to prepare for that. And that's just wise stewardship. And that would be the same with the resources because dollars obviously are being spent to protect individuals and property as well. So it's really an issue in my mind of proper stewardship. And that just really shows our example to others that we're around of being prepared and being really good stewards of what God's given to us.
Yeah, that's so good. Stewardship indeed. So policy documents are often very hard to look at and know what exactly is going on in the language here. What exactly is covered and not covered. So if you were counseling a ministry as they review their insurance policy and what it does for them on mission travel, what are some core questions they should be asking to make sure that their policy is going to work for them when they go on a mission trip?
If I break it down into the fundamental pieces of an insurance policy, and that's a great question. Remember, insurance policy is simply a contract. It's agreement that has obviously various clauses that are in it. It's got conditions, and that's kind of that dice model. We say the declarations. It gives the fundamentals: address, name, period of time that it's covered. There's also the insurance clause. There's coverages, but then the E part of the dice are the exclusions. Are the exclusions in that? And even in your own church policy, there are limitations to that policy. That's why I believe our role as the indispensable trusted advisor is so key in that. Have a relationship with your insurance agency because churches are unique. It's not the machine shop down the road or the furniture store, which they're great. And I understand they have unique risks themselves, but find that agent that really understands mission travel and what policies and conditions there are that meet your need, because it can be a big trip hazard if we don't know what we're looking for, because those exclusions, you don't want an oops when you're halfway around the world or I didn't understand.
That is exactly right. That is the wrong time to find out that you didn't have what you needed. And so actually you mentioned a coverage like that earlier when you talked about your own personal health insurance and how that might not serve you well when you're out on the mission field. So talk about that for a second. What is that delineation between someone's personal health insurance and what they ought to have in their mission travel coverage to make sure that their health insurance follows them around the world?
Yeah, the key with that, and that's once again within the industry, the insurance industry, I love that there's innovation and there's the ways to meet the risk and insure the risk, which is exciting to me. So when we have limitations in our own personal health insurance policy on the domestic side, the great thing is we can buy products that are going to give us medical coverage when we're abroad. Again, if we go to Argentina, or if we go to Kenya in Africa, or if we go to France on a mission trip, our policy that you purchase through, in our case, many times it's a Faith Ventures policy, will provide medical coverage if you were injured in those countries. Again, break an arm, break a leg from somewhere you're walking around or you're involved in some type of activity and you got to go to the hospital. It's not going to be your local insurance policy, but for really pennies on the dollar, you can get that kind of medical coverage to protect you in those short-term mission trips. And the big key with that, Adam, that I would say, many times we talk about what are some of the unique distinctives, and the big part of that is evacuation. There's a terminology within the policy of foreign travel and mission travel, evacuation. And I know we have examples that these can easily get into six figures. Even here locally, if I had to call an ambulance, okay, it can be an expensive ride for an 8-mile trip to the hospital. But think about being with a tribe in the jungles of Brazil. Not many highways, not many roads to get there. You may have boat, four-wheeler, small engine airplane, then getting you to commercial airplane to evacuate yourself. That is a key coverage. I would encourage any ministry, make sure you got a very high level for evacuation in your mission planning insurance program.
That's really good. So let's talk maybe this is a similar answer, but let's talk more broadly about when someone purchases insurance for their property and liability locally, that policy ends at some point, either through exclusion or by geography. That policy doesn't travel everywhere. Can you help understand, if a ministry leader is listening to this right now, can you help them generally understand where those limits effectively happen? Like when you buy a package policy for your ministry, how far does that actually follow you?
The majority of territorial definitions, and again, that's that definition piece of your insurance policy, it'll tell you the US, you may throw in Canada and US territories. And at that point, the liability, the coverages from that domestic policy, that's the limit of that of the coverage. So the neat thing that I say in the mission travel square, we're fortunate as an agency partnership within our Lightwell partnership to have a full slate, a full bouquet of offerings that can meet the needs of the church. We have a coverage that's called worldwide liability that you can endorse on your current brotherhood policy that's going to meet the needs in many cases of whether it's liability, a supplemental coverage for kidnap and ransom. It's going to provide some of those coverages that a church may need just by endorsement. So when you have specialists, when you have companies that understand the risk and an agent that can, once again, put together the package as the church needs, there's some ways that you can manage that. But also, if it requires being more robust, we have an extended mission program. And I see many of our churches are thousands and thousands of travelers per year. We set aside a specific policy for them for liability, for medical, for evacuation, for political unrest. All of those pieces, we're able to build that out in a product offering that is unique. So really, back to our paint store, there could be a variety of colors that we have in the paint store, but the neat thing and what I have the absolute confidence in our position as in the Lightwell partnership, we have an answer for that mission travel need.
I love it. And you've mentioned this a few times about the need for a trusted advisor, a trusted person in your corner who can help make sure that those unique needs are covered. So this is not me asking you to give a Kurt Hetherington pitch about why you're great at this, but this is more just to give anyone listening today a feeling for what the experience of working with a trust advisor is like. So can you give our listeners kind of a sense for when you're walking a ministry through building out their mission travel plan, how do you get them from they don't know what they need to making sure they have everything they need?
Well, I think a couple aspects in that. Number one, as a risk advisor, one of the greatest tools we have is really a checklist. That's one of the resources that you can use as an insurance agent or any kind of trusted advisor to analyze the risk. What I love, there's a resource, it's called Big Book of Checklists. It's about 160 pages, and it's soup to nuts with regard to church and church ministry. But there's one specifically, it's about 8-10 questions that I like to, when I'm initially doing an intake interview with a church that's thinking about mission travel, I go through these questions. Some of them are real, it talks about, do you have a release form? Do we have permission? Have you prepared documentation and travel? So that's kind of that initial assessment of where we are. And then the next portion of that is really developing the insurance protocol, and that's through questions. And the neat thing about it is I mission travel. I've been on mission travel. I love missions. I'm passionate about missions. So I've walked that walk. And it's like with any journey, if I want to take a hike and somebody's already been there, what an advantage of walking alongside them to be able to point out things, points of interest or hazards that may be out there. So as Lightwell Insurance partners, we have the perspective, because that's what we do. We are on mission trips, and the resources to truly diagnose the need for that church when they're getting ready for mission travel.
That's all so good. Yeah, and I love that image of if somebody's already been there, let's listen to what the journey looks like to them. So that's really, really great. You mentioned earlier this notion, this need for stewardship. wise use of the resources that you have, making sure your needs are covered. So a lot of these ministries, they're having their mission teams raise funds. They're on tight budgets in all kinds of different ways. When a church is cost conscious because they are stewarding the resources they have that are God's resources entrusted to them, how do you help them balance saving money, but still getting comprehensive coverage? Where do you find the balance when you're talking about mission travel and that?
A great question. You gotta boil it down to three things. Price is a part of it, coverage and service. You have to boil those together to then, at the end of it, value. And obviously, yeah, we'd love to have all the coverages, all the insurance, but we work within a budget. We have the ability to tailor coverages for churches that can be at that baseline budget level. But remember, through that RISK that we were talking about, the acronym there, hey, there can be a portion of that you keep. For example, you could buy a kidnap and ransom policy. I'm a big believer in it. That maybe your trip is going to a country that is relatively safe, that the risk of kidnap and ransom is so minimal that you as an organization say, you know what, we really have to save some of these dollars. We are gonna choose not to purchase a kidnap and ransom policy. We're gonna keep that risk. And that's fair. It just is important that we truly understand the risk. And if something were to happen, we go, yep, that's something that we said we were going to take hold of. But we have multiple levels of offerings and limits. We talked about medical coverage. Well, you can get maybe only 50,000 fits within your budget. Or we talk about, okay, 200,000 is a better number. Now, what kind of travelers? What are the ages of your travelers that are going? How, with physical capabilities kind of wrapped into that. So a lot of that diagnostic really comes from back and forth conversations. So the neat thing that I like in our position with our Lightwell partnership and Brotherhood Mutual is to be able to tailor that. We can raise that up, we can ratchet that down, but it's a true understanding and really being in partnership with that church and ministry to be able to budget it effectively, because we know every dollar counts.
That's good. I don't know if this is an appropriate image for that, but as you were describing, to make sure I remember it right, price and coverage and service. It's almost like a three-legged stool where if you get one of those out of balance, it's not going to work for you. And if you get all three of those in a place that covers all of your needs, that's when you've delivered or achieved the most value out of the thing that you're purchasing. So I really like what you said there about those three kind of considerations. And so if I'm a ministry leader listening, that would be a note-taking moment for me of, okay, price, and then the coverage you're getting for that price, and then how is that coverage serviced by whatever agency and company that you're working with to make sure, okay, I'm in balance with all of those. I'm getting the most value out of this when I really need it.
And we're seeing more products being, hey, I can go online and I can purchase something, or I'm gonna grab a piece over here and grab a piece over there. I really believe, and especially in mission travels we've talked about, Adam, boy, there are unique dangers. There are unique hazards out there, and understanding that is so key. That's why that trusted advisor piece is critical in planning out your mission travel.
Yeah, well, it's not that there's anything wrong with getting your insurance quoted online. I would want to do that. The convenience of the internet with that kind of thing is awesome. But we're not talking about shingles on my house. We're talking about the kids from that youth group that need to have the exact right coverage. We got to steward our care of the people that are going with us and the people that are going for us on these mission trips. That's such a sensitive and important stewardship. That is very unique.
And speaking into that, my own church, which it's just so exciting. It's an Acts 1:8, and walking through the book of Acts in my discipleship group, and many would argue that Acts 1:8 is kind of the key verse of the book. But what is it talking about? The power of the Holy Spirit will come upon you, and you'll be witnesses to me in Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria, to the uttermost parts of the world. So with 195 countries on this globe, it's an incredible mission command for us to be a part of.
I was actually thinking about this as we were prepping for this interview. the Jerusalem, Judea, ends of the earth, those kind of concentric circles of where we're called to go. I don't mean to over spiritualize insurance, but there is just such a weight of consideration to what is our plan when we're staying local? What are we doing when we are in Jerusalem, like close home, in our building, taking care of the nursery, taking care of the worship team, all of those things. Then you take a concentric circle out. What are we doing when we're in our community? Do we have proper coverage when we have a small group that's meeting in someone's home or a volunteer that's driving one of our vehicles? Then you go a concentric circle out, and it's the ends of the earth, and you're saying, okay, then what's our plan for that? Again, I don't mean to over spiritualize Lightwell and insurance and what we offer, but it's that kind of thing for a ministry to say, if we're called to these places, do we have a plan that covers us well for each of those calls?
Well summarized. That is absolutely so true. And it kind of comes to the phrase of let's prepare and prevent so we don't have to repair and repent. And being at the forefront of that, we love to engage ministries because we love the work of churches and what's happening. And I know you, from your vantage point or my vantage point, we do get that 30,000 foot view. And truly, it's like a recent article from Evangelical Alliance that spirituality and interest in things about God are increasing exponentially. So the opportunity and the openness now in 2026 to the gospel is unlike what we have seen in years. So the opportunity is right there. The fields are white with harvest. But as we go into that, back to our Proverbs 21:31, let's prepare the horse for battle. Let's prepare the horse for battle.
It's very good. Well, Kurt, we're drawn to the end of our time here, and I've asked you a lot of different questions about mission travel, but I want to ask you a question really about you and the work that you've gotten to do over these last 32 years. Congratulations on that anniversary, by the way. What keeps you going? What inspires you about the things that you get to see as you're working out there as a Lightwell Insurance Advisor?
Thank you for that question, Adam. I tell everybody I have the greatest job in the world. The people I get to encounter that have poured into my life, that have mentored me. I love pastors. I love churches. I love organizations that are serving a kingdom purpose. And to be around that on a daily basis inspires me. Now, I'm a little slower in my walk. I'm a little weaker in my lift, but the heartbeat is still there. And what encourages me is truly, I believe we are at a unique place in ministry to impact the gospel around the world, and mission travel is part of it.
That is a phenomenal way to end our conversation today. Kurt Hetherington is the agency director for Lightwell in the states of Texas and Iowa, and he's also the president of James Green & Associates, and between those two agencies, they serve more than 9,000 ministries across all of their states. Kurt, you have been, as always, a delight to talk to, and I'm, on behalf of all those ministries, thankful for the way that you've stayed in the work and the way that you've brought others into that work with you to serve ministries really well. Thanks again for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Adam. I appreciate it very much. God bless.
My thanks once again to Kurt Hetherington. That was a great conversation, and if your ministry feels called to go well outside of the walls of your church building on a mission trip, it's important to have that advisor, that helper, that guide to make sure you're doing that in the wisest possible way. So if you've got questions that remain about that, I would point you toward lightwell.com to find an advisor in your area who can help you answer some of those questions, or the resources that Kurt mentioned on faithventures.com would also be a great place to get resources and documentation and plans together to take a really successful and wise mission trip. So until the next episode of the podcast, let's go and let it shine.